iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike, but I'm here today to talk about something completely different. This is part 2 of Beyond the Brown Bag, ways to save money by simply packing your lunch. This part's about hardware, and by hardware I mean the stuff that we use to take our lunch, to eat our lunch with, those sorts of things. So we're going to talk about this in a sequential way, looking at the packing of the lunch, the utensils, and then containers, just so you have a better idea. And you might think this is a little compulsive, but believe you me, if you know how to do this, you're going to have success at doing it, and you're more likely to do it more often. This is the traditional way that you pack a lunch, right? But what's the problem? Bags rip. And that's one of the real problems with the brown bag. The other problem is it's not very ecologically sound. It's not very big, and it gets kind of crunchy too. So I guess in situations where you only can use something disposable, a brown bag is the way to go. But I think there's a lot better ways than using this. So let me put this off screen, and let's look at some different options that you could have to pack your lunch. My assistant here, will hand me a couple of the first item. Okay, thank you, Will. Here we have some traditional children's lunch kind of boxes. Most of them are kind of soft now. When we were growing up, they were probably the nice hard metal ones. And I brought these two out to, these are actually some of my kids' boxes, to show something very important. Something as simple as the size of the lunchbox makes a big difference. Now my wife is kind enough to pack these, but look at the difference. And she's always complaining. She says the Pokemon one is just simply too small. Now, of course, Pokemon has Pokemon on it, which makes this very valuable to my son, but it's much smaller than this one, which I think came from Whole Foods. This is just bigger, it's better. This one's falling apart after a year. This one's 2 years old. It's still in good shape, and it even has little nice things like a little place to kind of stick stuff, little forks or spoons or whatever you'd want, maybe a napkin in the front. So even when looking at something as simple like this, you want to look at the quality of the construction and check out a few different brands to make sure that the one brand that you get is going to be adequate. I will tell you that this size is probably not what most adults want. However, if you have to commute on a train or on a bus, you're going to want something small like this, and so you'll have to be a little more creative in how you pack stuff. Can I have my next item, please? And here comes Will, getting the next item. Okay, here is a traditional kind of adult size lunch bag. And this was actually an insulated container. It claimed to be an actual cooler kind of container, and it came in one of those sets where you get like 4 of them for $19. The size is certainly a lot better if you look at the inside for adult lunches. It's not what I would use because I pack multiple lunches. But there's a lot of things about this bag that are just not very good. First of all, see how floppy it is? That lets you know that there's very little insulation in here. This is really just a bag. It's not really a freezer bag. In fact, I can feel my finger very easily on the other side. The zipper construction is poor. There are no outside pouches. It's kind of a junky bag. So I would say if you're going to invest in a bag, this is not the kind of bag that you want to invest in. Well, can I have the next bag? I'm going to push this off screen like that. Okay, here's the bag that I use. These are very inexpensive, under $15 at any big box store. I think this one came from Target, but I've seen these at places like Walmart, and I've seen them at Kmart and other places too. And this is just by Igloo. It's called MaxiCold. I really, really like this bag. First of all, let's take a look at the insulation. We can get this out. You see how that's, even the top part has a very thick insulation on it. It has this nice little thing. This is actually for cans, but I use it for lunch. But you can still reach in there and grab stuff, which is very nice. And you can see that it has this nice thick insulation, very thick when I press it. It's also kind of a silver color, and that's going to make it a little more reflective, so it's going to be a little better cooling. It has this very nice zipper and this very nice pouch in front. Mine has stuff in it, but there's stuff in there too, so you can put all sorts of things in there, and it's a very handy little item. And it has this nice shoulder strap, which is great when you're carrying a briefcase, or if you're a lady, if you're carrying a big purse. This is just great to put on your shoulder and to carry it. So I would really recommend this. So it also has a little pouch in the back to put stuff too, which is handy. This type of a lunch box or cooler is really the way to go for most people. Again, it's a little bit big, so if your particular needs need something smaller, then go with one of those smaller items, or just go to the store and look at the myriad of different ones they have there and pick one that's right for you. But I would get the biggest size that you're comfortable carrying, because the biggest size really gives you the kind of flexibility that you're going to want. By the way, this type of cooler will actually keep not only my lunch cool, but also my dinner cool, and that could be 10 hours after I pack it. So it works just very, very well. Well, now we're going to look at utensils. Well, utensils, forks, spoons, knives, that sort of thing. Here again, you're probably thinking, come on, what's there to know about utensils? Well, unfortunately, there's more than you would think. Here we have the traditional plastic spoon. These are the ones that you buy. They're very cheap. You think, well, this would be the ideal type of thing to use in your lunch. And they are really great for single use, and if you tend to lose little things. So if you're packing these in your kid's lunch, no problem. They cost a couple of pennies each. Kid tosses them in the garbage. Everything's sanitary. That's great. The problem with these, however, is, well, there's actually two problems. You have to remember to buy them, and you have to remember to pack them. And if you pack lunches as long as I've packed lunches, what you're going to discover is that you're going to go in the pantry someday and they're not going to be there, or you're going to go and open your stew or your soup or your chili or whatever you have, and you're going to discover that you forgot to pack a spoon. What a lot of us do after a while is we start to reuse these because we kind of feel it's kind of a waste. But these are really single-use items, and if you tend to wash and reuse them, they tend to kind of break on you. So there's nothing quite as awful as having a spoon break right here and then you're eating your soup like this, or maybe a fork, all the tines will break off the fork and you're trying to stab your piece of leftover roast and that sort of thing. So these are really not reusable. These are made out of a consumer level plastic, usually high density polyethylene, and again, they're not really used to be reused. So I would not recommend personally using something that's a one-use item, especially if you're going to pack every day. It's not very good for the landfills. Will, my assistant, can I have my next item? Okay. Well, here we have some other items. We're going to lay them out over here and I'm going to show them to you one by one. Well, why not just take a spoon from the drawer? Here's a nice spoon that we have in our drawer. Problem is very simple. We never have enough spoons in our drawer to begin with. So why would I want to take some and leave one in my lunch bag or possibly lose it and destroy the set? But if you're very careful and you don't really care, this is a very easy solution. You can also go to places like Big Lots or IKEA and buy very, very cheap silverware or actually flatware. Here's some of it right down here. I'll show it to the camera and then I'll put it down so the other camera gets it. You can see that this is obviously much more cheaply made than the good stuff. It's much smaller, which is actually an advantage when you're packing a lunch, but it works just fine. You can go to a place like a dollar type store and buy 3 or 4 spoons for $1 kind of tagged together, or 3 or 4 forks or 3 or 4 knives. Buy a couple sets of those things and you're set for a very long time. So this kind of a setup would work just fine if you want to use stainless steel type of flatware. And again, I would recommend getting the cheap stuff for your lunch, not only because it's cheap and if you lose it it's no big deal, but also because it tends to be lighter and smaller than the good stuff.